Our Father's peace to everyone catches this message. Hashem Yahweh Elohim, Shalom Barak, Allahu Assalamu Alaikum, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's time for a party. Today's party is called When Will It End? Is it the end of the world, or is it the end of the world as we know it? When will it end? We're going to talk about Armageddon today. Rubbish Freely, Borach Money, Bush Party, Mark 5, Supreme Wadini, of Let's start out with a song. Song you all are familiar with. This one called Psalms 1. Brought to you by Cold Before Dawn Productions. All right. That was Psalms 1. Brought to you by Cold Before Diamond. We are currently broadcasting on both YouTube and TikTok. I can't see the comments. However, I do see that we have around 2 people in YouTube land. I want to thank you all for being here. If you want to leave comments, you are welcome at any time. Any questions or anything like that pertaining to the subject, I will stop long enough to address it. If it's off the wall and sideways, it'll be left there just so that everybody gets to see where your mind is at. But no, I can't see the comments in TikTok because of the particular app that I'm using right now. I am simultaneously streaming one device in order to use the other to read some information from some research. Many of you have heard of the word Armageddon. Some of you have heard the word etymology. Etymology is when you find the root of what a word means. You break it down by syllable and you find out what each of those syllables mean so that you can get the definition what that term is. Right now, I'm speaking to you in a language that's called English. Well, that means that it is part of a language that came from some people who were called the Angles or Anglo. However, the language that I'm speaking right now is very far removed from the language that the Anglos spoke. I'm nowhere near what the Anglo-Saxons spoke like. The current English language that I'm speaking is fused with a lot of different languages and tongues from different nations. We would go and consult a dictionary to figure out what each of the words mean when we speak with each other. And we can even find out where the word came from because there could be a difference in its original meaning and then what we do with it in modern terms. So we find this word Armageddon when we open up the Bible in the book of Revelation. Well, if we looked at the scroll in its mother tongue, it would be Hazan. And Hazan means to rejoice. Most people, if you mention the book of Revelations, they're going to think about Armageddon. They're going to think about the end of the world, the end of times. Every 100 years or so, people start telling you the world's about to end. The end is nigh, the end is near, the sky is falling. Look at all the catastrophes. Excuse me. So we're going to look at this word Armageddon. Kalen, I see you. Hashem Yahweh Aleichem Shalom Barak. Allahu Assalamu Alaikum. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon you. Thanks for coming to the party. Got another song lined up. We have about 3 more songs that we're going to play before we get fully started. Give people a chance to come in and join in the room. There will be those who I will see, and then there's others who will see this broadcast after it's actually been posted up. I want to thank you all for being here. Tada, shukran, gracias, grazie. Ashante, shukran, spasibo. Thank you all for being here. Right, so this song is called Yahweh You Reign. Brought to you again by Cole Before Die. Right. That was Yahweh You Rain, brought to you by Coal Before Diamond Productions. Kaylin left a message saying, Bless Jesus. Kaylin, do you know about Yahashua HaMashiach? Do you know about Barashite? Do you know about Aleph, Bet, Gamel, Dalet? Do you know Rach or the scroll of Baruch? And the question is, how can you bless where blessings come from our Creator? All things come from our Creator. We are merely vessels. We have a choice of either doing the will of our Creator or doing something outside of that will and standard. We've been taken very far away from our origins, from our principles. We don't speak our mother tongue. I know a little bit of vocabulary in Farsi tongue. I know a few words and phrases in Hebrew, Proto Canaan. I used to know some terms and phrases in Aramaic. However, when I picked that up, that was 31 years ago, and I didn't use the terms frequent enough to keep them within my memory. There's the language of geese. Now, all of these languages have quite a few things in common. So if you speak one of them around someone who speaks one of the other, they may look at you with a confused face. However, they will be able to follow you in conversation. That's why we're about to go through the etymology of the word Armageddon. Found this word called eschatology. So before we go into Armageddon, we're going to look at the definition of the word eschatology. Might even take you into the etymology of eschatology. We shall see. To those of you in TikTok land, to those of you in YouTube, I want to thank you all for being here. Welcome. Bienvenido. Hashem Yahweh Barak. Allahu Assalamu Alaikum. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon all of you, your families, and your circles. Here's another song on the list. This one is called Destiny and Journey. It's brought to you by 3P Rouge. That's 3PROJH.
World Wide Web. 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 Well, I'm standing on the corner of Destiny turn these things are getting way too shy. It's down the dirty south. No innovations coming out of players' mouths. Time to head for the border, take my crew on an Iliad. Reach out and touch the world, exposing 10% affiliates. But now I'm sure you guess, we live in continental US. And we won't stop until we blow up the spot in Bangladesh. It's a mystery how such a small crowd controls the currency, while the rest of us are rats running on wheels in laboratories. False freedom society is only a maze for chasing cheese. The world spins 360 degrees, and so can you. Pick up the game from Parker Brothers and you'll get a clue. Wait a minute, let's take it back stateside. Pangea is the web of our thoughts worldwide. Wait a minute, let's take it back stateside. Pangea is the web of our thoughts worldwide. Worldwide, worldwide, trapped in Groundhog's Day, why repeat yourself? Playing virtual reality, pretending you an elf. If it wasn't for my ijtihad, I'd be a thief or assassin. Quiet panther, stalking while you're raising rockers blasting. Seems the only sound investment these days is black jackets and caskets. I got a subterranean locomotive headed straight for Canada. Need some Medicaid, socialism's the only answer. Mosey on down to the shores of the Caribbean. Start speaking in tongues, make them think I'm Bolivian. Organized Aztec protest at the doors of Mopec. Cause there's some villains making trillions, taking till nothing is left. Move on to the jungles, strap myself to some trees, save the rainforest so our planet can breathe. Or would you rather die because it killed the cure to your simple disease? Steady propagating social crime called greed. Corporations stealing land from aborigines with no treaties. Wait a minute, let's take it back stateside. Pangea is the web of our thoughts worldwide. What about the Monroe Doctrine? Rip it up, burn it, and cast it to the four winds. Enemies trading secrets for lies told on friends. So let's take it across the ocean to the land of my hide. The core of my body shakes like ropes in a royal rumble. Native tribes committing genocide to the ATLian beat of humble mumble. Apartheid hasn't died, it's just no longer covered. The smell of death is in the air, sky overcast, the baby boom of the buzzard. Why is it the empires must colonize everything they discovered? Put a brick wall between you and the land called mother. Hypothetically, you can't discover what's already there. So who are you to tell me how to walk, talk, and wear my hair? And what's up with this free zone? No flying over holy land, fighting over oil and sand. From the streets of Turkey and Israel to the dunes of Iran and Afghanistan. All of your holy books told you how to survive in this place. The last time I checked, we were all humans in the same race, supposedly cognitive. So tell me what the hell are you doing? Civilization and things falling apart, we're marching off to ruin. Let's take it back stateside. Pangea is the web of all thoughts worldwide. Worldwide, worldwide, past has been preserved for us to learn from mistakes, like re-engineering buildings on the sites of earthquakes. Strap two life preservers on to your feet, take a stroll on the beach on the search for some eats. It takes a while to find something agrarian. Go to Mesopotamia and find the Bavarians. Maybe go to Europe, smoke some hash and walk through tulips. Take a tour through the Caucasus Mountains and flow some knowledge on your ass from the peaks of Shiraz, but we're not through. The Filipinos, Indians, and Chinese have been patiently waiting like the Haitians, staging demonstrations, meeting you free, and you be you. Leave me alone to do what I must do. I believe in the eightfold path that must be right. I couldn't find find it inserted in every world religion in sight. Not only that, but let's take it to the Swiss Alps. The population is in order with no split the scalps. So what's up, Mr. President? I don't mean to rush ya, but can you tell me what you plan to do about Poland and Russia? Hey, wait a minute. Let's take it back stateside. Again, it's the web of all thoughts worldwide. Worldwide web.
That was Destiny, brought to you by 3P Road. 3P, plan, produce, peace, Rouge, Rook, Ravak, wind, spirit, soul, breath. We get together 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday through Friday, to talk about ethics and entrepreneurship. We usually reserve Sundays for question and answer period. However, the panel is always open for both questions and comments. Right now, the way that I'm broadcasting, you would have to tune into the Angelic Discipline channel on YouTube in order to actually place a comment. I can't see it in TikTok using an app called Restream. That is because I'm reading information off of my device. That's how Highest Heights Studio is ran. I've got 2 phones. Some people use it because they think they're a plug and they got a network. Meanwhile, yes, normally we get together to speak about 10 different special interest groups. They each have their own day, and then there's different perspectives where we would talk about organic marketing strategies concerning ethics and entrepreneurship. Each special interest group is its own company or organization, and there are different techniques you can use with organic strategies to have placement across the internet, to have recognition, to have a reputation. We had to take a pause in our normal format because I've started to become disgusted with some of the information that's being broadcasted by other people. It's come to the point where people are just regurgitating what they've heard from someone. I'm not a person who goes around go through the Bible quote for quote and telling people what, because there's one specific quote in there that says, study and show yourself approved. It does not say go find someone who studied and they seem approved and then just repeat everything they say. No, it says that you are supposed to go and study yourself. It doesn't mean sit there and listen to somebody else. For everything that's coming out of my mouth, I charge you. You go look it up yourself and check for yourself. In order to study, that means you would find something that agrees with what you are looking for, something that disagrees with what you are looking for, and then something that says it doesn't matter, it's all ridiculous anyway. If you go and just find 3 things that agree with you, then you have not learned anything. You now know that there are 3 other people or groups who agree with your mindset. It doesn't tell you anything outside of your mindset. Before the Bible was published, in written text before it was written on, before there were characters scratched into clay tablets, before anything was painted on a wall. People spoke with each other and told each other stories. People had conversations, they exchanged words of wisdom. People didn't just sit in their house and in their village, they actually went traveling, which meant that you would meet other people with other cultures, other stories. Those stories interchanged and intermixed. There are so many different oral traditions that are across this globe. It would be very hard to find the one where everything came from. I'm not here to tell you the truth. I'm telling you that while ciphering one of them, I found some hidden truths that make all of the bickering that is going on seem very senseless. That was my aim as a child, was to find out how can we start working together again instead of everybody just arguing. You ever walk into a room full of adults and they'll tell you, no, we don't discuss politics and we don't discuss religion. It just causes arguments. Now, what kind of sense does it make that the things that are supposed to unite a society are the same things that cause conflict and confusion? There's something wrong with that picture. I never let go of that. I never accepted that we will just grin and bear it. We will just tolerate each other. No, because if I'm sitting in a room with someone and I feel the worst energy coming from them possible and they've got this smile on their face like everything is okay, I have a problem with reality. Somewhere reality is false and I don't want to partake in it. Today, the discussion is, when will it end? There's a word called eschatology. Then there's another word called Armageddon. Let's listen to another song and then get this party started. Shout out to Talk Land. Shout out to everybody in YouTube. Shout out to everyone who's here now. And for those who will catch this message later on, it's posted. Hashem Yahweh Elohim, Shalom at Barak, Allahu Assalamu Alaikum, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon all of you. Thank you for being here. The song is called Sain Dalet Quoth, brought to you by 3P Roach.
Sayin, the son of man. Sayin has no home. Sayin, Dalet, Kof. Sayin, Dalet, Kof. Son of man or son of God, they're not the same. Keep your mysticism. Mythology is not my guide. Sayin, Dalet. I'm a tool, slash spin, pressure pressing, like a blast from wind, split beats like sheep, scattered after disproving thoughts. Take a walk, observing the garden, pruning before the conception of the splice. 50 shades of pepper for your spice, on your cooked rice. A Nazi is the high priest of the same region. The first phase, likened to disorder, the signs of quarter, and still some miscriterion. Yes, I'm saying, that's no home.
is not my God. Zion,
The son of man
Balak,
has
off. Picturesque image at the break of dawn. Why start your yawn with a yawn? The man would have done better gathering and collecting the thoughts of his father, right next to his disowned son. People running a yard for miles talking yo, which is Yiddish, making people skittish to represent the will of Yahweh. How can there be a city where our Creator resides if mankind is ruled by being a typical pride? Yahweh is a start, yet many miss living according to Joseph's heart. Zion,
the son of man
Zion, Balak,
has no home.
Kof,
Zayin,
Kof, Son of man or Son of God, they're not the same. Keep your mysticism. Mythology is not my God. Cycles of severity. Time is precious, like currency. Use your potential to be kinetic. Come and flow with me. Sand grains on the beach coming in and leave. Water from the tide. Turbulent commotion. Polishes wild footprints. Evidence of traffic is no longer seen. Replacement remnants and debris. Driftwood and seaweed. Sun-dried, but dwindling. Sun-drenched for essential vitamins and mineral bath. What's the meaning of life, they ask? Turn your work into utilizing the talents you were born with. Miss me with menial tasks. Off, Zion,
The son of man
Balak,
has no home.
Son of man or Son of God, they're not the same.
That was Zayn Dalet Koff. Brought to you by 3P Roche. You see the Cash App, you see the PayPal. That's not a request just for you to throw a gift in my direction. I am a musician. I am a graphic artist. I'm also a promoter. If you have a business, if you are an entrepreneur, if you have a special interest group and you would like for people to know about you, if you would like to get global recognition, would start with your social media profile. Do you have a Facebook? Do you have a YouTube that you actually post videos through? A Twitter, an Instagram, a TikTok? There's an organic marketing strategy for you. Whether you are trying to generate profits or generate awareness, I'm a promoter. There's actually an invoice that I use concerning pricing for the different things that I do for promotion, whether it's have a picture that's generated and we post up that picture different times throughout a month. If you have one profile on social media, imagine having a baseball team of social media profiles. That's 9 members on your team. So if you have one, you need at least 8 more. And on a daily basis, you are interacting with those profiles. Because while you are at one profile, that's a limited group of people because not everyone uses Facebook. Not everyone uses you. Not everyone's TikTok. Those are things that I focus on outside of biblical studies. And the reason why is because we live in a world where we must depend on finances. You can make ethical choices, or you can make some choices that blur the lines, some choices that are not on the straight and narrow path in order to survive. While that choice there, we need to make sure that the best standard, the most lucrative standard, is one that comes from the righteous choice. We took time out from talking about the 10 special interest groups in order to focus on the order of Malachi Zadok. You may know that phrase from Melchizedek. The order of Malachi Zadok is made up of Malachi, messengers, who are Zadok, righteous. If you hand someone a Bible and you ask them, who is this book about? They're going to tell you Jesus. They're going to tell you Christians, Jews, Moses, David. Tell you about a lot of people. They'll tell you about Adam. Might even throw in the Levites, Israel, all the 12 brothers of Israel, or the 12 sons of Israel, shall I say. 12 brothers of the house of Israel. They tell you all these things. You ever stopped to think who put all those stories together and told you that that's the qualifying book? Because people will tell you that the first 5 books were written by Moses. Then they'll tell you written in Hebrew, later translated into Greek. The form of writing that would be used by someone like to be Hebrew, that form of writing came after the time that Moses would have been alive on the timeline, to mention the fact that the 5 books that Moses is being attributed to have been writing, he passes away while the books still go on and things happen after his death. And had to have taught Moses. The knowledge didn't start with Moses, because at the beginning of this Bible book, it tells us that there's a guy named Adam who was taught the knowledge. Now, does that mean that once Adam got kicked out of the garden, all of a sudden the knowledge went away? Well, no, because it says that Adam had a son. It says he had 3 sons. He had Cain, he had Abel. Abel was murdered by his brother. So then Cain was kicked out of the garden. Eventually, Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden too. However, they did have another son. His name was Enoch. Well, not Enoch. His name was Seth. Now, Seth had some sons. And eventually, down that line, yes, there was one Enoch. And after Enoch, there was Methuselah. And after Methuselah, there was Noah. And after Noah, there was Abraham. Now, all these people, the reason why they were lined up that way is because they were still teaching the same standard. They weren't Hebrew. They weren't Jewish. They weren't Christian. They were walking the divine path. Their message was to let people know in my presence, and even if I'm not around, you are expected to walk the divine path the same way that I do. So that messenger would be said to be righteous. Malachi, Zadok. There's no telling when this messenger was born, or there's no sign of when this messenger passed away. There's no parentage, there's no mother and father to trace. What you have in your hot little hands when you are comparing your notes about the Old Testament is the Septuagint, which is a translation into Greek terminology, Greek phraseology, and Greek theology. And let's also wind that back, Mycenaean philosophy. For everyone who says, oh, well, we've got the original to the original. We know the in the beginning and the this and the that. The whole realm of Mesopotamia, the whole realm of the Fertile Crescent was made up of many different cultures. Some were at war, some banded together as families to protect each other and to drive out the bandits. To find out what that language was called at that time in the land of Canaan, the Canaanite language, you'd have to find out what was before then, before Proto Canaan. We don't know. According to geographic knowledge and geological knowledge, there was an ice shelf there covering what is now Turkey. 15 to 50,000 years ago, not that long ago. It melted back. We are in the year 2000, according to the Greco Roman calendar. If 2,000 years is 2 millennia, then multiply that times 10. That's how long ago there was an ice shelf covering an area that is now populated. There have been a lot of changes. Societies have grown. Societies have spread to other places. Societies have readjusted once the ice melted away and exposed landscapes. If you have a mindset of plenty, it changes your outlook on your future. If you have an outlook of scarcity, it puts a certain pressure on your presence and your future. If you come from a society where your circle is oppressed, you have a certain look for the future. If you are the ruling class, then you're wondering when will your subjects overthrow you and your power. This power struggle is called politics. Is this power struggle even necessary? Some would say that they were born to be ruled because they are not bright enough to rule themselves. Now, if that were the case, I would say, can a person see, hear, and also think? Because reading the most books is not what makes one smart. Let's look at a word called eschatology. Looking at a website called His, American Heritage Dictionary. Eschatology. 1. The branch of theology that is concerned with the end of the world or of humankind. 2. A belief or a doctrine concerning the ultimate or final things, such as death, the destiny of humanity, the second coming, or the last judgment. Greek, eschatos, last, CEGHS, in the appendix of Indo-European roots. So now we go looking for EGHS, Aegis. There we go. EGHS, Aegis. I know it's reversed. It's not mirrored the way it needs to be. I just want you all to see as I'm reading off. EGHS, OUT, out. Oldest form, or EGHS, becoming, in centum languages. Derivatives include strange and extreme. Variant X, EKS. So when you see that prefix EX, X, X, EX, dos ex machina, subhanallah, one moment. What's going on, bro? All right. You live? Yes, I am. For you? Ain't that how far actually? All right, safe out there. Subhanallah. So we were at X and X dos machina. You all know, hey, have you heard that phrase? Do you know about X dos machina? That's that device that is thrown in whenever it seems like everything is about to go wrong. And then out of nowhere, this miracle comes in and fixes everything. Ex dos machina. From the Latin, ESX, out of, away from. Ecto, ECTO, exo, exoteric, exotic. Ecpyrotic, that's strange. That's a word I'll have to find. Ecpyrotic, ecpyrotic, ecpyrotic. I'll tell them what that one means. Electuary, lekvar, synekdos, from Greek ex, ek, out of, from. Suffix comparative variant, ex or tero, estrange, exterior, external, extra, strange. From Latin exter or outward, feminine, ablative, exter, extra, on the outside. Further suffixed superlative form, ex, ter, emo, extreme, extremum, from Latin extremis, outermost, mo, superlative, suffix. Suffixed form, exco, exotology, from Greek, extos, outermost, last. Celtic, s, out of, in compound, ex, d, sedo, see also, sed, sed. Samizdat, from Russian, ease, from, out of, from Balto-Slavic, ease, or Pokorny reference, eggs, 292. It's an Indo-European form. Might even say Indo-European thought process, because in order for us to say out or from or something like that, it wouldn't have been eggs. There's another word. So this eschatology is not a Semitic process. You catch my drift where I'm coming from. This end of the world, end of times, second coming was introduced because while the Old Testament is written through the Septuagint, the New Testament has one book attributed to the Hebrew or Aramaic language, and it's called Hebrews. Everything else is Greek, Mycenaean, Roman. Now, at the time that Yahashua HaMashiach was walking the earth, those who said that they have Jewish, Hebrew ancestry were living in occupied territories that had Kemetic names. And the people who lived there, the populaces, spoke Mycenaean tongue and were under Roman rule. Most of them spoke the Mycenaean tongue. The New Testament was meant to be a study guide for returning back to Proto-Canaan. That did not happen. It was removed further from Proto-Canaan to the point now where people who speak English refer to a concordance and forget of context of their own culture. Put it on the back of the stove and let it simmer. So now that we've discussed eschatology, and I got that from going into the American Heritage Dictionary. You can find that online. You don't have to get the physical book. You can open up the website and search words, find out their definitions, and then find the etymology of those words, find out the origins of those words. Sometimes it's Indo-European, sometimes it's a Semitic word. It will tell you either or. It's rare that they're going to be the same. It's either Indo-European or it's Semitic, but it's not going to be both. Then there are also you won't really find words that are Asian or Indian as far as it's concerned, as far as Chinese and Japanese and all of that, because those words don't match any Indo European word or any Semitic word as well. There aren't too many Persian terms that match the same speech patterns. You would have to look in the Vedas to match back to Iran to find that kind of similarity. So give me a moment. I'm about to take a swig of water and also about to open up this other article concerning Armageddon. I got this one from a site called, this is a paper printed in Andrews University Seminary Studies from spring of 1989. It's volume 27, number 1, pages 69 through 73. Copyright 1989 by Andrews University Press. Note, the etymology of Armageddon, Revelation 16, chapter 16, verse 16. It's written by Hans Larondel from Andrews University. Give me just a moment. Let me take a swig of water and we will get started. Low on water, we'll be sipping on green tea soon. Okay, so this is another one of those papers where there's going to be references and citations. So while I'm reading, I will not be saying Yahweh if they happen to print out God. I'm not saying Yahashivai if they happen to print out Jesus or anything like that. I'm going to read it according to the text. That way, when you come across the same text and resource, you will be able to see exactly what I am seeing. Right now, the link is not in the details of the post. However, when I do go back and review, I will make sure to add that. That's why I'm mentioning it now, and I gave you the actual citation of where this article is coming from. I don't want anybody calling my work. I don't want anybody giving me a copyright strike, so I would rather give it. Not just the correct citation, but also the correct uh, uh, salutation to the writer. So here we go. The etymology of Armageddon. Although the linguistic origin of biblical terms may prove to be uncertain and need not necessarily determine theological meaning, such terms may still carry some religious significance. This is apparent from Revelations 9, chapter 9, verse 11, where the name of the angel of the abyss is given birth or is given both. Oh, let me back that up. And I'm going to take me a drink of some green tea, slow my mind down a little bit. I need to be tripping over the words. Let's take it easy. Okay, now let's try this again. Although the linguistic origin of biblical terms may prove to be uncertain and need not necessarily determine theological meaning, such terms may still carry some religious significance. This is apparent from Revelations chapter 9:11, where the name of the angel of the abyss is given both in Hebrew, Abaddon, and in Greek, Apollyon. The phrase Armageddon in Revelation chapter 16, verse 16, deserves attention for its possible theological frame of reference. Armageddon, usually even in English, is Armageddon, occurs only once in all of Scripture, and it is accompanied by the added clue that the name is given in Hebrew, which of the Old Testament. From a linguistic standpoint, biblical scholars are divided in their assumptions as to the original Hebrew word lying behind Armageddon. In fact, they generally regard the etymological problem as being unsolvable. The patristic view. The oldest view set forth by Christian commentators concerning Armageddon was that the term meant literally mountain of slaughter, as evidenced, for example, by Andreas of Caesarea and Archimedes. This interpretation apparently traced Megadon back to the Aramaic stem Gadad, meaning to cut down, to, or the Hebrew root Gadad, meaning to cut, to break in upon, to penetrate. A second view is that Armageddon is somehow to be connected with Edo, a city in the Australian plain near Mount Carmel. Holding basically to this view can be reckoned all those who see Magidon as the Greek transliteration of the Hebrew name Megiddo. It is a notable fact that the LXX has transliterated Megiddo once by Megiddon. That's Judges chapter 1, verse 27, and also by Megiddo, Second Chronicles chapter 35, verse 22. In addition, Megiddo was the historic site of a victorious war of Yahweh, it says Yahweh, against the Canaanite kings, celebrated in the war, celebrated in the famous song of Deborah. That's Judges 4 and chapter 5. See especially chapter 5, verse 19. Many exegetes refer further to Ezekiel's apocalyptic portrayal of the final war of Jehovah on the mountains of Israel. That's Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 8, chapter 21, chapter 39, verse 2, chapter 4, and chapter 17. To strengthen this is a typological taproot of Armageddon in the Old Testament history of Israel. The nearest mountain to Megiddo is Carmel, which witnessed Elijah's dramatic victory over the prophets of Baal, where these also were put to sword. It's 1 Kings chapter 18. For linguistic and theological reasons of the foregoing kind, the identification of Megiddon with Megiddo has found the widest acceptance with scholars. After reviewing the theories that have been set forth, E. Nestle concludes, upon the whole, to find an allusion here to Megiddo is still the explanation. Armageddon connected with Mount Zion, or the mountain of God. The conjecture that Armageddon would be the Greek transliteration of Harmoed, mountain of assembly, a reference to the celestial mountain of God in 13, and indirectly to Psalm chapter 48, verses 1 through 8, is mentioned by most commentators but favored by few. Introduced as a suggestion by F. Homo in 1890, it was rejected by most scholars as linguistically untenable because, as stated by Joachim Jeremias, it does not show how we are to explain the rendering of, and what they're doing is they're showing the modern Hebrew characters, uh, and I don't I don't know if that's yod or what that is. Have, like I said, it's in Hebrew characters. I don't know modern Hebrew characters, but they're saying that two characters got switched out, so they're not sure on how they're supposed to transliterate the scenario. And all of this in the word Megiddo. Jerry today judges likewise that this speculation must be viewed as dubious. For the same reason, the Seventh day Adventist Bible Dictionary calls the assumption that Armoed is the Hebrew original improbable. In Hamel's view, Armageddon refers to the world mountain of the gods in Babylonian mythology. Others think of Mount Zion. Armageddon and the Septuagint version of Zechariah chapter 12, verse 11. It seems that another linguistic phenomena should be considered. The generally overlooked fact that the LXX is in one instance actually paraphrases, not transliterates, the name Megiddo in its Greek version. In Zechariah chapter 12, verse 11, the LXX renders the phrase referring to the plain of Megiddo as in video ekapto mino, which may be translated literally into English as in the plain of the cut down pomegranate grove. This unique Greek paraphrase of Megiddo suggests that the Jewish translators responsible for the LXX perceived in Megiddo not the Hebrew stem yod to assemble, but rather Hebrew gadad and Aramaic gadad, meaning to cut down. This conclusion supports the interpretation of Armageddon by the first Christian expositors, Andreas and Archimedes, mentioned above. The theological significance of Armageddon. Armageddon, Mount Megiddo, is the apocalyptic name in Revelations chapter 16, verse 6, for the place where end time Babylon and her worldwide kings will receive the divine judgment because of their ultimate rebellion, i.e., war against God. That's Revelations chapter 16, verses 19 through 21. It stands in direct contrast to Mount Zion in Revelation chapter 14, verse 1, as the place of divine deliverance for the 144,000 faithful saints of the Israel Israel of God. It stands in direct contrast to Mount Zion in Revelation 14:1 as the place of divine deliverance for the 144,000 faithful saints of the Israel of God. Both Megiddo and Zion are symbolic places to be defined theologically in the full perspective of Israel's history in the Old Testament in Hebrew. It needs to be recounted that the environment of Megiddo has witnessed the dramatic defeat and destruction of the Canaanite kings through the flooding of the river Kishon in the days of Deborah. That's Judges chapter 5, verses 19 through 21. The slaughter of the false prophets of Baal in the Kishon Valley in Elijah's time. That's 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 40. And the untimely death of the misled pious king Josiah or Hosea fighting on the plain of Megiddo, which caused the annual mourning of all the tribes of Israel. That's 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 29, 2 Chronicles chapter 35, verses 23 to 25, and also Zechariah chapter 12, verse 11. Austin Farrer has summed up the theological significance of Armageddon most comprehensively in this quote. So, in sum, Mount Megiddo stands in his mind for a place where lying prophecy and its dupes go to meet their doom, where kings and their armies are misled to their destruction, and where all the tribes of the earth mourn to see him in power, whom in weakness they had pierced. For there the stars in their courses fight against princes, and the floods of destruction sweep them away. Judges 5, 19 through 21. In response to the literal application of Armageddon in the future to the geographic location of a Mount Megiddo in Palestine, two remarks can be made. First of all, a literal Mount Megiddo is never mentioned in the Old Testament and does not actually exist. Consequently, the earliest Christian interpreters, including Origen and Eusebius, did not see in Armageddon the name of a place at all. A second and decisive argument against interpreting the reference in Revelation chapter 16, verse 16, with geographic literalism is the fact that the Old Testament prophets had already clearly designated the locality of the apocalyptic struggle, namely on the mountains and valleys around Mount Zion. That's Joel chapter 2, verse 32, chapter 3, verse 1 through 17, Isaiah chapter 29, 1 through 7, Ezekiel chapter 39, Daniel chapter 11, verse 45, Zechariah chapter 12, verse 2, 3, and 9, chapter 14, 1 through 4. Also, 4th Ezra chapter 13, 35 through 39. The book of Revelation continues this uniform Old Testament eschatology. That's Revelations 14, verse 1, and then 20 verse 9, with but one modification. The Lamb of God determines the new covenant fulfillment and consummation of all of God's covenant promises and curses. See Revelations chapter 7, verse 9 through 10, 12, verse 17, 14, verse 12, 15, 1, and then 2, 17, verse 14, 19, verse 11, 21, verse 9, 22, and then 23, chapter 22, 1, and then verse 3. And then also reference second, that's Quran, that's Corinthians. Yeah, Second Corinthians chapter 1, verse 20. Just as Mount Zion in Revelations chapter 14, verse 1 is defined by the gospel as the place of messianic salvation. That's the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verses 22 through 24. So Mount Megiddo must be similarly defined as the place of curse and doom for the Antichrist. That concludes that particular paper, The Etymology of Armageddon, written by Hans K. Larondo. This can be found in the archives of Andrews University Seminary Studies. I have a lot of different articles that I'm going to have to go back and cite for all of these different posts that I do. So please keep your ears open when I'm telling you where the publications are coming from. When you go and you look up something and you search and you say, hey, Google, what is blah, blah, blah? And Google gives you whatever answer, that is not research. That is Google giving you the first results because 100,000 people, 900,000 people decided to use that as their response. It's the top response. Doesn't mean it's the best response and received. So people use that because they relied on lack of attention, a short span of attention. So as soon as they saw what they thought they wanted, they clicked on that, took that and ran with it and said, well, here's the word. If you were to write a research paper that expounded on what is the etymological story behind Armageddon. Well, we would have to get 5 or 6 more papers like the one I just read. They would not have to agree. It is best that they, if we have 5 or 6 papers and 2 or 3 of them agree, then we can do a comparison and contrast. Compare the authors who agree with the ones who don't agree. That's what was going on inside of that paper. It was giving the examples of where one side of studiers would say a certain thing, and then these other researchers would say something completely different. And then it cited where they were pulling their references. That's how we can make informed decisions, not just pick our favorite verse and keep reciting that as if that's going to fix everything. When your car is running out of gas, reciting a Bible verse is not what's going to get you to the next gas station. Your car is still going to require the brake petroleum so that your spark plug will make that cylinder move in order for there to be some form of pressure from your, because if that pressure doesn't happen and you don't have any kind of electricity surging through and some kind of horsepower with pressure, then your wheels are not going to turn. That that engine is not going to stay fired up. It doesn't have any fuel. When your stomach starts rumbling, it doesn't matter how much you recite some verses until you put some real calories in your stomach. You're not doing much good to you or your body or what you're reciting to our creator. Because the best our creator would be able to tell you is go put some food. Now, here's the problem. When you're sitting there and you don't have any resources to get food in your belly and people pass you by, ignoring you, that's when it becomes an issue. That's when you're saying, oh, dear Lord, oh, Adonai, oh, Adon, oh, Yahweh, oh, Elohim, please send me a source of sustenance. That's when we're dependent upon the next human being to be a vessel, a tool. Because what you have in your, you have more than enough, and you definitely should be giving your best portion to someone who is of need while you can still feed yourself and your family. If we were all doing that, there would be less moments of greed, less moments of want. It doesn't take turning water into wine to perform so as giving a kind service to someone else. Showing compassion and empathy is not miraculous. That is something we're all born with. We've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes. We're about 20 minutes away from the top of that. When you see someone in need, go help them. Don't ask them if they need help. It's obvious because you see it. If you have anything that you can do to help them, then you help them. If you can't and you can find someone who can, go bring that person back to help them. If you can't do anything for that person at all, leave them alone. If you do help someone, don't wait for a thank you. That's not why you did it. You did it because you were showing compassion, felt empathy. Amitabha, Amitofo. That's how you would say compassion in either Chinese or Japanese. Go out there and be the reason someone else has a smile on their face. You see someone about to walk through a door, open the door and hold it for them. Someone's about to cross your path. You stop your steps. Allow them to cross your path. Allow them to be on their way. It's not what you quote. You will be known by your activities. Well, Usher. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. By time, surely mankind is at a loss, except for those who practice tabah deeds amongst each other daily with patience and consistency. Peace, Sabir. Alhamdulillah. I mean, got a song to play for you as we close on out. I think we'll probably catch up maybe if I'm willing. Until then, you know what to do. Because you ain't sent by me. You were sent by the Creator. You know what to do. And if you don't,
The son of man
call me.
has no home. Sayin, Dalet, Kof. Sayin, Dalet, Kof. Son of man or son of God, they're not the same. Keep your mysticism. Mythology is not my guide. Sayin, Dalet. I'm a tool, slash spin, pressure pressing, like a blast from wind, splitting beats like sheep, scattered after disproven thoughts. Take a walk, observing the garden, pruning before the conception of the splice. 50 shades of pepper for your spice, on your cooked rice. A Nazi is the high priest of the Sanhedrin. The first phase, likened to disorder, the signs of quarter, and still some miss criterion. Son of man or son of God, they're not the same. Keep your mysticism. Mythology is not my guide. Sayin, the son of man, has off. Picturesque image at the break of dawn. Bust onto a yawn with a yawn. The man would have done better gathering and collecting the thoughts of his father, right next to his disowned son. People running a yard for miles talking yo, which is Yiddish, making people skittish to represent the will of Yahweh. How can there be a city where our Creator resides if mankind is ruled by phenotypical pride? Yahweh died as a start, yet many miss living according to Joseph's heart. Sayin, the son of man, Dalet, has no home. Sayin, Dalet, Kof. Son of man or son of God, they're not the same. Keep your mysticism. Mythology is not my guide. Cycles of severity. Time is precious. Like currency. Use your potential to be kinetic. Come and flow with me. Sand grains on the beach coming in and leave. Water from the tide. Turbulent commotion. Polishes wild footprints. Evidence of traffic is no longer seen. Replacement remnants and debris. Driftwooding seaweed. Sun-dried, but dwindling. Sun-drenched for essential vitamins and mineral bath. What's the meaning of life, yeah? Turn your work into utilizing the talent you were born with. Miss me with menial tasks. Off, Sayin, the son of man, has no home. Son of man or son of God, they're not the same.
Till next time, many much love and respect.